Hi, hope you had a great break. Today, what you're going to be practicing and learning about is more on atoms and the periodic table. So, hopefully, you're watching this video. But if you remember, before we had winter break, we talked about a couple things. First, you learned about an atom, right? And an atom is the smallest thing that's in everything, right? Atoms are in pizza, they're in us, they're in a table, a computer. Basically, anything that exists are made of tiny, 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 really tiny pieces called atoms. And this is what atoms look like, right? They have a center part called the nucleus. And in the nucleus, there's positively charged protons and neutrons that have no charge. Then on the outside of the atom, there are what we call electrons. Electrons. This is what an atom looks like. Atoms make up everything. The different kinds of atoms that exist are all on this chart that we looked at before break called the periodic table of elements. So if you look at it, hydrogen, H, is an atom. He, helium, is an atom. All these boxes represent different atoms, different things that exist. So you've probably heard of oxygen. It's what we breathe in, right? That's on the periodic table. You've probably heard of salt or sodium, right? Na. A lot of different things. Gold is on the periodic table, a lot of different things. So the first thing I want you to do to help you review is to go to this next slide. And what I want you to do is, and I've already done an example for you. So if you look at this, it says periodic table of elements. As I want you to read these descriptions and then click on the arrow and match it and pull it to whichever one that it fits with. Okay, so I'm going to pull this arrow, whoops, to whichever one it goes. I'm going to click on the dot and I'm going to pull it to whichever one it did. So I gave you this example. The periodic table of elements is a chart where all the atoms are located, right? The periodic table is this. So if you notice, I brought my arrow to this. The next thing you're going to do is read each of these terms: nucleus, atom, proton, neutron, electron. You're going to click on the arrow and then pull the arrow to where it fits. Like for electrons, electrons are negative parts of the atom, right? If we look on our atom here, electrons are negative. So I went ahead and I put that on there. So that's what you're going to do. Try to match all these with their definitions. Okay? I'm going to bring this back. All right, so that's the first thing you're going to do. Okay? Then what you're going to do is you're going to take a look at, and let's read this together. It says, today we're going to learn about some of the symbols and pictures inside the periodic table. So let's look at the next chart. It says, in each box of the periodic table, it tells you about a different atom, and that's in our world, right? Each atom could be used to make humans, planets, water, air, pizza, land, right? There are lots of different types of atoms, right? You learned that there are 118 total on this chart. So if we look at some of these, right? Lithium, Li, that's in batteries. Maybe you've heard of calcium, that's in milk, Ca. Helium is in balloons. It makes your voice sound like this, right? And oxygen is in the air that we breathe, right? So you can look at all the elements on the periodic table to learn what stuff is made of. Let's go to this. So on the periodic table, each box also has a symbol in it that tells us if it's a solid, a liquid, or a gas, okay? A solid is something that's hard and that you can touch and keeps its shape. So like my cell phone is a solid, right? It's solid material. So that means all the atoms are really close together, like a block would be solid. My pen is a solid. This cup is a solid. I'm a solid, right? A liquid is something like water or milk, and it moves to fill the bottom of a cup. So if I were to take this cup and pour water into it, water is a liquid, right? It fills the bottom of the cup. So if the bottom of the cup were a triangle, the liquid would fill in a triangle shape, right? And then the last thing is our favorite, a gas. A gas is like farts or the air, right? When it enters a space, it fills up the whole space. So if I farted into this tube right here, the gas would fill up the whole space. So whether my nose was here Or here, gross, I would eventually smell it, right? Nasty. Okay, so on the periodic table, there are solids, liquids, and gases. You can tell which one's a solid, liquid, and gas because I know this is kind of hard to see. There's a key at the bottom. Okay, let me make it larger. Oops. If it's a solid, it has a box in the corner of it. So like calcium's a solid. If it's a liquid, it has a dot, like a drop of water, like this one does. Hg, which is mercury, is liquid. And then if it's a gas, it's got a cloud by it. So see how hydrogen has a cloud by it? So let's look at an example. So if we look at hydrogen, we notice that hydrogen, if we zoom in, has a cloud by it. And that cloud means that it's a gas at room temperature. So hydrogen is a gas. Okay? So what I'm going to do on the rest of the slides is I'm going to look at the periodic table and I'm going to see what's circled. So this is beryllium. And I notice that there's a box in the corner of it. A box means it's a solid. So over where it asks the question, it says, is beryllium a solid, liquid, or gas? I'm going to say that it's a solid. And I'm going to type it in. Okay? Then I'm going to go to the next one. The next one says sulfur. And I'm going to look at it. Is there a box? Is there a drop? Or is there a cloud? And I'm going to write in solid, liquid, and gas. So your job for your homework today is to do that for the rest of these slides and then turn it in. Okay? Good luck.